So in today's video, I'm going to give you 10 tips for staying cool in a tiny van. Before I get rolling, if you want more content like this, I would suggest subscribing. It's no cost to you and it helps me a lot. And if you like it, give it a thumbs up and ring the little notification bell. So these are in no particular order. Number one tip would be to chase the weather. The advantage to being in a vehicle is that you can move. If you are in a spot and you thought it was going to be warm and it gets too cold, you can move and get to a warmer spot, and vice versa. I have been in both situations. I usually try to look ahead of time and plan. Sometimes no matter how much planning you do, weather changes very quickly. If you can, check weather apps. I do have a couple and I'll leave them in the description below, but WeatherBug is one, just regular GPS satellite is another. And if any of you have suggestions on apps that do that, especially ones that are free, I try to not spend a lot on those types of apps, but if it's a good one, I'll spend it, especially if it's going to help me out a lot. And to go along with that is to go to a higher elevation. Sometimes just a matter of a couple thousand feet really gets you into a better situation. If it's very hot down below, you go up where it's a lot cooler. So that is tip number one. Tip number two, go near water or create your own little kiddie pool or bucket or something like that where you can soak your feet, because a lot of times just being able to do that can cool you off. And if you are near a river or a lake or the ocean, that will help you greatly to stay cool. Tip number three, park in the shade. I've told you this before, but I don't have solar on my roof. I have a panel right behind here. It's my solar panel. So this is a portable solar panel that goes with my Jackery. I intentionally went that route because when you have solar on your roof, the disadvantage sometimes is that you have to park in the sun. And there are ways around that, but I found that it's easier to just be able to park where I want to or can, and then I can move my portable solar panel and my Jackery out into the sun. And going along with that, if you've been watching my videos for a while, have seen that I have the umbrella shade and reflectix in the front of the cab through here. And so that keeps that area cooled off. So you kind of can create your own shade inside the vehicle by putting reflectix or something on the windows. I don't have windows in the back, but I do in the front, and that tends to lower the temperature quite a bit. Tip number four, use an awning or a tarp. I have a awning on the side that I usually have open, and what that does is create a little bit of a cooling tunnel for the wind, that kind of, if there is any wind or any kind of breeze, to come through and cool before it hits my van. You can see right now I have a little bit of breeze coming through and it cools it quite a bit. Which goes along with that point is to create some kind of ventilation always. Another thing is that in the back, but where my barn doors are, when I can have those open, I put my shower rod between the two doors and hang my shower curtain on it, and I have magnets that kind of allow that to stabilize. But what that does is creates another type of air tunnel where if there's sun blazing even right directly onto it, that's shaded a little bit and the wind kind of comes over and comes through the back. So I do that a lot in desert conditions because there's not so many flies or mosquitoes or things like that that you have to deal with. But during the day, to have as much open, I always have my front windows open a crack and I have mosquito netting on that so nothing kind of gets through. I have my side doors open quite a bit, and if there's no bugs, I don't even need my screens for that. Same with the back. So in this tiny space, it pretty much can stay cool. Again, you're creating your own shade with the awning. Something that I have seen, and I had to do it once because I didn't have any shade and I was in the middle of the desert, was to use an aluminum blanket, the kind that you use to kind of keep warm, kind of those space blankets that are everywhere. They're like a couple bucks, and you put magnets on them, and if you put them right on your van, it creates kind of that bounce off effect. So the aluminum reflects off, and that is essentially creating some type of a shade. Other people who have solar panels on their roof, one of the advantages maybe if they can set it up this way. I saw one woman who did this in her van, and I thought it was very strategic. She allowed her fan, I don't think it was a max air fan, but it was just a little fan in the roof. She had her solar panels elevated by a couple inches so that that fan could still be there, but it allowed airflow through that tiny crack in the space between the solar panels and her roof of her van. So that's in its own way is creating some type of shade. Number 5, fans. Ventilation, basically. If you can create insulation and then ventilation, you're going to get good airflow. So I do not have a max air fan. I have talked about my Polar clip-on fans that I have 2 of them, and they can clip on anywhere kind of in my van, and I put them strategically, one near a window where it's blowing the breeze in, and one where it's kind of pointing out. Because I don't have a max air fan that sucks it out, I have to kind of create some kind of movement with that. So I do that. Tip number 6, spray bottles. Now, some people have huge ones. I tend to this is just water, and because I like to conserve water, I always use little miniature things, and because I have a tiny van, this you just spritz on your skin, basically will evaporate and help, just much like sweat, but this has a little bit more of a cooling effect because it's just little cool water, and it will keep you cool. And even better, if you have one of those spritzer ones with a little fan, even better. So that will kind of have a little fan for you. I do have this one, got it, it's called O2 Cool. It is from Walmart, and it basically goes around here. You can pull it up or down, and then it turns on right here. It has a little button, and it has 3 speeds. It's the 2nd speed and the 3rd speed. And so what I like about that is it just kind of literally blows right up into your face. I like this little thing. Number 7, hydrate. Again, miniature. I know some people have these big gallon jugs. As you know, I can carry 10.5 gallons pretty easily in my van. I have them in smaller containers, but what I do, this is an insulated thermos, so I take my already kind of cooled off water from the white water jug that I have, that is, again, it's like a metal, so it cools it while it's sitting in there, and then I put it in here, and this is one of those that is said to kind of keep it cool for quite a long time, and it does. So that way I have cold water without needing refrigeration. Number 8 is to basically water something down and wear it. So I have several types of shirts like this. They're kind of a gauze-like material, and so they dry quickly, but they can kind of get wet and be all right, and it's light material. It's also white, so if I'm wearing a lot of black, I can put this over me and it'll keep me cooler than the black will. Another thing is these little towels. Okay, so it's the same basic idea. I like these because they come in these little containers, and I've got a couple of these, and basically these are friendly for the environment, and I think they're made out of bamboo, so that is nice because it also has a nice cooling effect. So if you douse this in water, so it could be, if you are near water, you can put it in the river or whatever, and when you're hiking, wear this either around your neck, or you can put it up in your hair. A lot of times, yeah, I'll wear it like that. So however you kind of keeping your head cool, keeps yourself cool, you can put it under your hat and kind of just let it fall on your neck. This is tip number 8. Number 9, if you can, this is kind of obvious, but for the heat waves we've been having all around, I know a lot of people who are in their vehicles and vans that really, like, sometimes it's just overwhelming. And so if you can, go into town, park somewhere, go into a coffee shop, pay for a cup of coffee or something, and sit there and cool off for a while. Or go to a public library where you can just be in air conditioning for a while, a movie, a mall, a grocery store, something where you can sit for a while and get out of the elements. I do know that there are places for emergency, so if you do find yourself in that situation where you really need to escape the heat, there are places that you can go. Usually, I think they're called cooling centers. So look for one of those where it's a public service where you can just go and cool off for a while. Tip number 10 is, just like I do in the winter for heating, I have the advantage of this being a tiny enough space that when I am hot, I can put on the heater of the car for a little bit, and I have a defroster that comes from the front and warm up the environment. I have this for the opposite. So I just got this a little while ago. I just got this a little while ago. It is called the Noggle, and it works in the same way as my heater kind of does, by bringing the air conditioning that is usually just has to cool down the cab area to the back very quickly. Just make sure that your air conditioning is to the setting where it's blowing to the face, not the feet or somewhere else, so that it blows directly here and it cools it off quite nicely. Within maybe 8 minutes, a cool, I think 77 degrees back here. The temperature continued to go down during the evening, and so it was wonderful. So those are my tips for staying cool in my van. If you have any suggestions or comments about that, please feel free to leave those. I know a lot of people can benefit from those suggestions as well as me. I read all the comments. I try to go through all of them, and so I'm very grateful for that, and I know that others who may browse those comments will benefit from that too. So I hope this was helpful to you. If it was, go ahead and give it a like, and I will see you in the next video.